Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 8 of the Beauty and Business podcast. Before we begin, I want to shout out today's sponsor, 6 Stars Clothing. You guys can all hit them up on Instagram for all your gear. Today's guest is Kai. She is a photographer specializing in newborn and maternity photography. And she goes by the name KCM Images, and she is our guest today. So if you're new here, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Hi, Kai. How are you?
I'm good. And yourself?
Thank you for being a guest today.
No problem.
So let's start by you introducing yourself and letting us know what you do.
All right. So my name is Kai. I'm a photographer of KCM Images, and I specialize in maternity, newborn, children, and family images.
And how did you get into photography?
Really, I've always loved taking pictures, but when I actually got into it is when I was on maternity leave with my second. So after taking pictures or bringing my daughter to get pictures, used to frequent Sears a lot. Remember Sears? And get her photos taken. But then after a while, I just felt like they were just so blah. Like there was nothing to them. There was nothing personable about them. It was the same thing that everybody had. And I've always had an interest in taking photos, so I just felt like, you know what, I could probably do this better. And that was it from there.
Good for you. And how many years would you say you've been in business now? What year was that?
That was, when I would say I would start, it would be when he was born. So we're going on to year 6 this year. Wow.
Ready.
Yeah.
Now, what inspired you to start your own business? Like to make a business of the photography?
So I was on maternity leave, and this might sound like super weird, but I actually dreamt it. Like, true story. I had a dream about it. And sorry, I wasn't on maternity leave yet. I was pregnant, and at work, I worked full time at this time for a company, and I just turned to my girl and I was like, I'm gonna do newborn photography. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, all right, do it. But what really, really made me push my gears into it is when I was no longer working for that company. Okay. And then I was like, I think I can do this, really focus on it, push myself into it to make it my priority.
That's good. And what inspired you to specifically focus on newborn and maternity?
So, true story, I had no interest in doing maternity at all.
Really?
I just wanted to do maternity. That's just what my focus, sorry, not maternity, newborns. Yeah. That was my focus. So when I started, I think what really kind of made me focus on that was I did have a friend when I had my daughter. And at this time, newborn photography wasn't really a thing. Besides like Ann Getty, if you know Ann Getty, she's the one that really kind of started it, but it wasn't really a thing. So then when I was pregnant with my son and I said, okay, I'm gonna get into this, I just always had a passion for photos, but I never necessarily had a passion for taking newborn photos. Okay. And then when being pregnant with my son, it was just like something just came to me and was like, newborn photography is what it is. And as I mentioned, I had a friend when I was pregnant with my first child, and she took pictures of my daughter. She was just starting at this time, so she came to my house and did a few photos. And at that time, I was thinking nothing of getting into photography. And then once he was, I guess, cooking up in me, I was like, let me focus on newborns. And I took my maternity leave time and I took like workshops, little classes, started investing in like little things, gave it a try, tested out with friends. My first shoot was with my son. Oh Lord, sorry son, sorry. But that was my first shoot and I just really liked it. I really loved it. And I just kept going with it from there. So I guess gave it a try and it worked.
And it worked, that's good. What would you say was the most difficult for you when starting your business? Like, was there any bumps in the road, or what would you say was the most difficult?
Equipment. Like, photography is expensive in general, just investing in your camera, your lenses, your lighting. But then you're adding on top of that newborn photography. So now I have to be buying props and wraps and blankets and having good variety, because you don't want every picture to look the same wrap, same blanket. So when starting off, it's hard because you're like, you know, you need to invest into things, but you don't necessarily know what's the best things to invest in at the beginning.
So it's like trial and error.
Yeah, I didn't really have anyone saying, buy this or buy that. So like back then I had a cheap camera that I got secondhand off Kijiji. I was using the lens that he gave me. I had some cheap light that I bought off Amazon. I don't even know where the light is right now, to tell you the honest truth, but some cheap lights off Amazon and just like some cheap stuff. And then as I continue to better my craft, and then I was like, okay, I'm able to invest in proper equipment, invest in actual better props. But at the beginning, it's hard because you find yourself, or I can speak for myself, I found myself just buying anything, just buying this, okay, this, buy this, or I would see somebody else take photos with something and then go and buy that. So a mix of equipment, but then also finalizing like your own style.
Yeah.
Because you're just buying a little bit of everything, and then after a while, like I can give an example. When I started, I would buy like the little Winnie the Pooh characters and like stuff like that, more themed, and now that's not my style at all.
Yeah, because I never see you using that stuff.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And I'm not against anyone that does it. If it works for them, that's great. But for me, I just like the simple, timeless. I just feel like no one really wants Winnie the Pooh on their wall forever and ever in an actual portrait.
Yeah.
So I just like the timeless style. So I would definitely say finding my own style, and just the expenses of starting the business was the hardest.
The hardest, yeah. And how do you juggle being a mom and running your own business?
So it's a lot easier now because I am doing it full time. And I don't shoot every day, so I have a lot more time with my kids and family. When I started though, and I was working full time and doing photography part time. So I'd literally be working Monday to Friday, shooting maybe Saturday, Sunday, and then still editing and still having to take care of home. That was pretty hard. I used to work in Toronto and I lived in Mississauga, so just the stress of like, you have kids, so you know, having to get back to daycare before this closes, and then get home and cook dinner and make sure homework's done, and I still have these people's pictures to edit.
Yeah.
And I was just tired.
And you wake up in the morning for work.
Exactly, and I'm just tired. Like, I was honestly tired. I could say I probably felt myself starting to get burned out. When I went back to work after maternity leave with my son, I actually told myself I was giving myself 1 year. 1 year to continue working continue working full-time and doing my photography part-time with the hopes of making it full-time. And it actually ended up happening in about a year and a half. So
yeah, that's still good.
It worked out for the better, but I find it easier now to juggle just because I have a lot more time.
And you have the flexibility because now you're your own boss.
Exactly. And it's so crazy how much of a difference it is when you're working full-time for someone else and you're working full-time for yourself. Like, of course, sometimes I'm up late at night editing or doing whatever I need to do, or up late setting up for a shoot, but that flexibility is on, like, my timeline is on myself. So I don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, I need to do this for this person, buy this, and if you don't, they're gonna be on you. No, I can be like, okay, I started editing, let me take a break, let me go for a walk for my kids, let me go to the park with my kids, or even just being able to, in the middle of the week, being like, okay, let's go to the dentist, or whatever the case may be. I don't really have to worry about anyone being in my ear.
Exactly.
So it's way better now.
Did you find that when you decided to do photography full time, did you find that you had a lot of support from your family and friends?
I did. That's good. When, as I mentioned, the whole idea came together when I was on maternity leave. So when I actually started shooting, my son was also a newborn. So I would be leaving him with friends and family just to go to friends that I knew that would let me go take pictures of their babies to practice. So it was a little frustrating because he was still young. Like, my son was literally a newborn baby, but I was like, I'm gonna have to leave you for a little bit because this is what I want to do. This is what I want to get into. And you just gotta do what you have to do.
Exactly.
So luckily I had that support from a partner, from my mom, from friends.
That's
so
good.
they helped me a lot.
That's good. And did you find, what was it like marketing yourself as a new photographer in the industry? Because, you know, there's so many of the same thing all the time. How did you find it marketing yourself as a new photographer?
So one thing I want to mention when it came to just marketing, because for myself, I would be viewing other photographers' work, like on Instagram, on Facebook. And first off, I found that I wasn't finding a lot of black photographers. I was like, ain't no black people out here doing this?
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
What is going on? And then I did eventually come across a few, but I was like, we're the minority in this big time. And I found marketing myself, it's weird because I naturally went to take photos of friends' kids and they just happened to be majority black.
Right.
And as I started to post and post and post, honestly, it's like the marketing did it itself. I've had people that would literally write to me and be like, I'm so happy I found a black female photographer that can do this, because everybody I saw was non-black person, right? And not to say that they were against it, but it's just different where it's a field that's majority one set of people, and then it's like, oh, okay, absolutely. I have my people out here doing this, let me support you.
Exactly.
So I found that as I continue to post and like put my work out there, I just got so much love from our community to the point where I'd have someone book me, and I always ask people like, how'd you find out about me? And they'd be like, oh, my sister sent me your page, or my cousin, or this. So word of mouth. Word of mouth was
amazing.
Huge for me.
And social media.
Man,
right?
Social media.
It's like free advertising.
The best free advertising you can think of, literally. Definitely social media. I would say between social media and word of mouth, that was it for me.
Yeah, and it just took off from there.
It just took off from there.
That's good. Now tell us about some of the photography products that you sell.
Okay.
And what would you say is your most popular product?
Okay. So before I get into products that I sell, I'm just going to say why I sell products.
Yeah.
Because the number one question I get a lot when people book me is, how much do you sell, or how much is it for digitals?
Yes.
I'm not a digital-based photographer. I'm a product-based photographer. So that just means I don't offer digital-only packages. And that's just part of my personal belief, which is why I go that way. This is from experiences from myself, from my friends. Maybe you can relate, but a lot of times you have a USB. You have a whole bunch of pictures on it, and it sits on the USB.
Yeah.
You don't do nothing with it. You don't look at it. How often do you really take a USB and say, let me put it in the computer to see this? And then also too, with technology changing so much, our USB is going to be here in 5 years. Our USB is going to be here in 3 years. We don't know. So I just feel like it's better to have tangible items. So into the products that I sell pretty much wall art. So wall art is anything that can be hung on a wall: canvas, frame prints, albums, story boxes, prints, and digital. So I do have digitals, but they just come with products. But my number one item is definitely my albums.
Yeah, your albums are pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely those. I love them myself, but I'm really happy that it is a piece that is favorited so much by people, because wall art is beautiful as well, but there's just something with the album. You're able to go through it, and
you customize them.
Exactly. And something I've started doing as of lately is all my albums include letters. So parents are writing letters to their kids in their album. So
that's nice.
God forbid, when time comes and we're gone, they're left with those words. And I'm not even gonna lie, I've literally sat at my computer reading these letters that people send to me, and I'm like, like, it's so touching. But it just really makes me think about, like, we've all lost family members, and you may have pictures of them and you may not, but to be able to have an album with pictures of you, your siblings, pictures with your parents, and then to have your parents' words in there down the road when they're gone, I think that's going to be something that's priceless.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Now, final question I have for you is, what would you tell your younger self?
My younger self. I've thought about this before. It's a little tricky. I'm an Aries. So most Aries, we kind of go for what we want. If we know we want it, that's just it. The only thing I would probably say to myself is don't ever shrink yourself. And I feel like now that I'm older, it's engraved more into my brain. But when I look back, these are things that I would actually used to have my teachers tell me. Or even my last job that I worked full time, one of my own managers, when I started to get into...
Sometimes I do that too. Sometimes I think back to things that my teachers used to tell me.
And it's relevant now.
And I'm like, wow, now I get why they told me that.
100%, 100%. And I'm very much, I find I used to be very like, I would kind of sit back or kind of quiet myself because I always had this thing of like, I don't want to be outshining people, or I don't want people to think I'm outshining them.
See, I was the opposite. My teacher used to always tell my mom, Renee always talks out of her turn.
No, I just be like, let me hold my little corner and be quiet. But I would just say, don't shrink yourself. That would be my number one advice. Do what you want to do. Who want vex? That's just it. You don't like it, you don't like it. But if I'm gonna shine, I'm just gonna shine. And I think that's something that's really important, and it's something that I try so hard to even instill with my daughter. Like when she comes home and she's like, oh, this person's not my friend. Okay, and do you have other friends? Yes. Do they care about you? Yes. Do they love you? Move on. That's it. Like, if you focus so much on like what people think about you, you start to change yourself and you start to do things on approval for others. And then I just find you start to lose yourself at that point. So definitely just don't lose yourself. Stay true to yourself and do what you want to. That's just
Absolutely. I agree. Well, thanks for coming today, Kai. Let everybody know where they can find you on social media.
Okay, so my website is kcmimages.com. On Instagram, it's kcm_images.com. And that's it. Yeah, Instagram and website.
Thank you.
No problem.